What's up guys, it's James here, and in today's video I'm going to break down the ROI on my most recent investment into a short-term rental property just a couple hours outside of Toronto in cottage country. What I'm going to do is we're actually going to jump over to the computer in a quick second here. It's going to be a little different than the normal videos on this channel. And what I'm going to do is I've got a spreadsheet that I use to calculate the ROI on an investment property for short-term rental, and I'm actually just going to jump over there right now. I'm going to walk you through the spreadsheet that I've got filled in with all of our property specific details and the numbers for our property, and I'm going to show you how we were able to project a 258% minimum ROI on our most recent investment, and that's in the first year. And I'm also going to talk more about what years 2 and 3 and onward are going to look like for this investment. So if you're interested in that, then stick around for this video. Now, if you're interested in actually investing in short-term rental properties, if that's something that you're interested in, you want to learn how to actually invest in properties for short-term rentals, start buying assets, buying properties that you can use as potentially a vacation home and a short-term rental, or if you just want to buy it strictly as an investment, then just click the link in the description down below to schedule a quick phone call one-on-one with me personally. I'm going to be working with a really small, intimate group of students over the next 6 months here, helping them to invest in their first property for short-term rental. Now, if you're the right fit, we're actually going to guarantee that we help you to find a profitable short-term rental and then you actually acquire a profitable short-term rental within those 6 months working with us. If not, we'll continue working with you until you do. So it's a real no-brainer. I'm looking for a really small, tight-knit group of people. It's going to be very limited, the capacity of this group, because I'm only going to be allowing 15 people to work with us in this cohort, because I want to be able to give each person real individual attention, work really closely one-on-one with these students, helping them to start investing in short-term rentals. So if that's something you're interested in, then just click the link in the description down below to schedule a quick 15-minute chat with me, and I'd love to connect with you further. Now, with all that being said and out of the way, let's jump into the computer and jump through the numbers. All right, so let's jump right in here and let's take a look at some of the breakdown of this incredible return that we're able to get on this property for an Airbnb. So you can see that our purchase price for the property, I'm going to break this all down for you. This is a really cool spreadsheet that basically just breaks down all of the different factors that influence the different ways that you're going to get a return on your investment. Because one of the cool things with real estate is that with real estate, you're going to get a return on your investment in a few different ways. Now, most people think about the cash on cash return, meaning the return that you're getting from the actual cash flow the property generates, the money that it's making each month that's additional to what your expenses are. And that's only one, and honestly a pretty small area of your return, your overall return profile when you're investing in real estate. You also have equity pay down, so you're going to be building up equity from paying down the mortgage, and then you're also going to be profiting off of appreciation, whether that's through forced appreciation from renovations or whether that's just a 2% annual standard appreciation on the property. So let's break it all down. I'm going to show you through the numbers here. And bear in mind, these are the most conservative projections that I have for the first to start with, where you'll see we're only netting about grossing about $50,000 in annual revenues for the property, which based on my projections, which I'll talk through how I do that in another video of how I come up with projections, looking at data from other comparable properties in the same area, this is at the absolute low end. So our property is a 6-bedroom property that we invested in, and this is what the lower end for a 4-bedroom property would look like, would be about $50,000 in gross annual revenue. Now I know that's a big number, even though it is our lowest possible projection, because bear in mind with this property in its location as a long-term rental, it would only maybe generate about $25,000 to $28,000 a year in gross rental income. So it's still a huge jump from a long-term rental, but as a short-term rental, this is a real worst-case scenario based on all the projections that I've run for comps in the area. And again, that is also a worst-case scenario based on 2018 and 2019 data, not the inflated 2020 values. So let's go into it in a bit more detail here. The first thing is the purchase price. Now, we managed to pick this property up for $520,000, and then we have our closing costs, our home inspection that we had done on the property. Another acquisition cost for us is just this one-time annual expense of our debt servicing on our loan for the mortgage or for the renovations. So we ended up taking out an $80,000 loan for the renovations, and we managed to get that at an incredible interest rate of about 4%. And so this is the loan payment for the entire year, which is how long we're going to be holding it until we do the cash out refinance and are able to pay back the principal on that loan. We'll be talking about that more in a bit more detail here. And the last thing is just going to be our interior design and photography, of having an interior designer put together a design package and having photography done at the property, so once it's ready for Airbnb. Now, next comes the projected income assumptions. So our average nightly rate is about $315. Now that's average over the whole year. So obviously some nights are going to go for closer to $200 and some are going to be as high as $600 and $700 in the peak season. This is a really seasonal market. And we've done some really great things. Included in that renovation budget is some money that we've set aside for, and the renovation is about complete now. And so we've got actually a sauna and a hot tub there. Now, it's a very summer-focused market. A lot of people getting away to the cottage in the summer. And so we wanted to put some amenities there that would be great for the summer, but also some amenities that would make it really attractive in the winter. Because one of the really big keys to making a property perform in the low season is understanding that there's only a small percentage of properties that are actually going to get booked in the low season. So you need to make sure that your property really stands out and is amongst those most attractive properties. In the high season, good chances are almost every property is going to get booked. So as long as you have a listing up, you're going to get booked. Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways to optimize the rates and make sure you get booked for the right amount, but it's pretty easy to just get booked in general. Whereas in the low season, you want to have amenities that make your property attractive so that you're going to get booked up. So our average nightly rate, if you work it all out, works out to about $315 a night. So the weekly rent on that is about $2,205. So the potential annual rent, if it were rented every single night, is about $115,000. Now, bear in mind, this could go up even a little bit further, and so we could potentially get a little bit higher, but that's the gross total amount if it was rented every night. Now, obviously, it's not going to get rented out every night. Our projected occupancy rate is only about 44% in a worst case scenario. And that means, obviously, in the wintertime, it's going to be very sparsely booked, whereas in the summertime, it's going to be almost entirely booked. So bear in mind that doesn't mean that all throughout the year, we're going to be experiencing that 44% occupancy rate. It's going to be a lot higher in the peak season, and it could go a lot lower in the off season. This is, again, a worst case scenario here. So that means a total weeks rented out of our 52 available weeks for the year of 22.88, leaving an annual gross revenue, that's inclusive of cleaning fees and all these projections, of $50,450. So that's our annual gross income, not accounting for any additional revenue streams that we might be able to generate from other things like, selling different goodies or things on the property, which right now we don't plan on doing. So that's a really great option, but not something that we plan on doing right now. And then our down payment, we actually managed to get this property through some creative financing at 5.19% down payment. So that's obviously phenomenal. And one of the big reasons why this deal made so much sense and was such a no-brainer. And one of the big factors in making the return on investment so astronomically high on this property is our down payment was only $27,000 roughly. So that means a loan amount of $512,000. There's actually a little bit tacked on to that for insurance on the loan. So there's actually a little bit additional on that. That's why those numbers don't add up to $520,000, but this is our total loan amount for the mortgage. Our interest rate, we managed to lock it in through really great credit at a 1.45% interest rate and amortization of 25 years, leaving a total monthly payment of $2,038.58. Now again, I understand that not everyone's going to be able to get a mortgage interest rate that low. I was honestly absolutely floored that we were able to get our interest rate that low on the mortgage and with such a low down payment. But it did work out this way for this deal. The bigger thing here is to understand that you need to be able to run this kind of analysis in order to make sure that you know whether your deal is a good deal or a bad deal. And you can still get phenomenal return on investment numbers even with a 20, 30% down payment, even with a 2, 3, 4% interest rate on your loan. You just need to find the right deal to make it make sense. And then obviously with this deal, we're looking at different factors. I have my own investment criteria as an investor, and so will you once you start figuring out the numbers. So anyway, the annual debt service on the mortgage is $24,500 roughly. And then we come up to our annual variable expenses. Now, me being an Airbnb expert and loving this and doing this all day, every day, I'm not going to be hiring a management company. So we're going to be managing it ourselves. It will be relatively easy to do. Honestly, it doesn't take a lot of time if you know and know how to and have the right systems to make it happen. Otherwise, you would expect to pay anywhere from 15 to 30% generally in management fees. It'll depend on your area and the type of property, but 20% is pretty standard for a management fee. And credit card processing fees, all this stuff we don't have to worry about because Airbnb or VRBO takes care of that. And these numbers over here are all net of those expenses. So the only thing we really have to worry about is our cleaning fee, which we figured at about $300 per clean. It ended up being a little bit over projected. We're actually going to be coming in closer to $250 per clean, but at an average of 1.5 cleanings per week, that means a $450 per clean. So this number is going to be a little bit high, but it's better to be on the high side than on the low side with expenses. So our annualized cleaning fees are equating to about $10,300 for the year. And that's really the extent of our annual variable expenses. We have some other fixed expenses throughout the year for different carrying costs of the property that I'll go over in a second here. But as far as anything else in this category, we're not paying any of that. It's not applicable to us. It might be applicable to you. So it's important to understand what costs and expenses are applicable to you in whatever area you're investing in and make sure that you account for them there. So the other stuff for us, we have about $100 a month in yard and snow. So in the summertime, it's going to be going and doing the yard maintenance. In the wintertime, going and doing the snow removal for the driveway. That's going to be about $100 per month. And then the pool maintenance, we obviously don't have a pool for, and the yard maintenance actually includes keeping up the hot tub that we've got. We have someone going there. It's actually going to be, again, over projected in my, it looks like, for this number as well. But again, better to be a bit on the high side and more conservative in my opinion. Electricity is going to run about $1,750 for the year. Cable internet we just got installed. It's going to be about $1,000 for the entire year. Our accounting expense to have our accountants do all the bookkeeping for the property and take care of our year-end reporting. It's going to be about $1,000 again. Property taxes at $3,300, homeowners insurance at $3,000 for our insurance. Again, understand as well that you're going to pay a higher premium if you have short-term rental insurance. So that's why that number is a little bit high. It's because we have a policy that specifically covers us for short-term rentals. And then last is going to be the maintenance reserve, which I recommend setting at about 3% of your total revenue, your total income, is what you're going to want to put in for your maintenance reserves for the property. And then last is going to be the propane and then different accounts that we have. That account is going to be just basically for some data accounts that we have and an account that we have for our guest book. That's basically our software expense for managing the property. And then propane is what's used to heat the property. So that's what the propane expense is there. Not just doing a lot of barbecuing. Don't worry about that. It is that's there to heat the house. So then if we work this all out, we've got an average monthly cash flow of, drumroll please, $29.66. Looks pretty bad, right? Looks like a really bad deal when you look at that and you look at our cash on cash return of less than 1%, not even keeping up with inflation. So on a cash on cash return, we're actually losing money to inflation. So now I remember when I first looked at that and I thought, wow, that's really, really low. That can't possibly be good. But you have to bear in mind as well that this is our worst case possible projection. So in a worst case scenario, this is really for if everything goes absolutely terribly with performance. And given that I know my stuff with Airbnb, know how to make a property perform, I really don't foresee this happening. This is also based on the 2018, 2019 data. So this is really our worst case scenario, is that we're cash flowing only slightly positive. Now that's a really good worst case scenario when you also look at the other ways that we're going to get a return on investment. And that's why I always remind people, when you're investing in real estate, there's a couple different ways that you're going to earn a return on your investment, and the cash on cash return is only one of them. Now, do you want to make sure that your property is going to be cash flow positive? Absolutely. You don't want your money to be draining out of your bank account to support paying for the carrying cost of this property month after month after month. So you want to make sure that you're cash flowing positive, but the really great thing is that you can actually get a really great return on your investment in other ways. So I'm going to talk about that as well. Now, I'm also going to run through what happens if we actually have a slightly better year. Like if we have just a good year, not by any means a great or exceptional year with the property, and this number jumps dramatically because we have so little money invested in the deal. It really doesn't take much to make this number closer to 20-25%. And that obviously is a phenomenal return on investment. So again, I've talked about throughout this how I'm kind of cushioning the expenses here and I'm downplaying the income. We're going to look at a more realistic scenario as well here. But this is our absolute worst case scenario, still in a really good place where we're still cash flowing slightly positive. Now, that's basically where we're at. The rest of this, you can just look at, it's just some different interesting numbers. And that is all kind of interesting for different calculations you might want to run. But here's where we want to really focus our time, is the rest of our ROI. Now, throughout that year, we're also going to be paying down principal on that mortgage. So our annual mortgage payments are going to total about $24,500. And of that, about $10,000 is going to go to, $8,000 is going to go to interest. And about $16,000 of that is going to be building up equity in the property, paying down the principal. So we have an additional equity gain of about $16,000, where we're paying down the principal on the mortgage of $16,000 over the course of the year. Now, given that we only have about $37,000 invested into the property of our own money, now that's the down payment and then your other closing costs up here. That means that our total equity ROI is 44%. So if we were to go and sell the property, we would have a 44% equity gain just from having paid down the property over the course of that year. That's pretty phenomenal. Now, the post-renovation property value we're conservatively setting at about $700,000. Now you might be thinking that's a crazy high number considering we just bought the property for $520,000. But mind you, we got this property for an absolutely great deal. We managed to negotiate the sellers down over $100,000 from what they were asking. And so we got the property for an absolutely fantastic deal. And we've done our renovations strategically. So those are two really key components here. So you want to make sure that you're buying a great deal, that you want to be able to find either an off-market deal, it's really great deal, or find a really great undervalued property on the market. And then you want to make sure you do strategic renovations to increase the value of the property. Now, we bought this property at $520,000 with spray painted blue carpeting. I'm not even kidding. The carpeting was spray painted blue. All kinds of stuff was really undesirable about the property. And there's a real premium attached to turnkey move-in ready properties in the location that we bought it. Not a lot of people who are buying a cottage property want to do renovations on that property. So it's pretty safe to say, and we've had different realtors and appraisers come in and look at it, that after the renovations will be worth about $700,000. And then we obviously have to deduct from that the amount that was actually put into the property, which is an additional $80,000 for the different renovations. So the net appreciation gain is about $100,000. That's the forced appreciation outside of taking out of the equation the amount of the loan where we're actually doing the renovations. We put $80,000 into it. We just force an additional $100,000 worth of value in the property, meaning the appreciation ROI is absolutely insane at 270%. So you combine all those up and you're looking at a combined ROI in the first year in our worst case scenario of 315%. So that's pretty phenomenal, pretty absolutely outstanding when you look at it and you think about, like, if you ask me, if I'm putting my money into something and I can get a 315% return on investment and have a really cool vacation home out of it, that is an awesome win for me. Now, again, you look at this and we look at, okay, let's say that we get the occupancy rate up to about 60%, and that's kind of more in line with, this is the lower end of realistic. Realistic would be about 70,000. So this is right about in line with where we are thinking that we're going to be in terms of our overall return, our overall gross annual income. And now suddenly you get that cash on cash return of 38%, almost 39%. So again, you're skyrocketing your cash on cash return as soon as you start looking at a more reasonable scenario. Again, I do like to always make sure on investment that the absolute worst case scenario is still something I can deal with, because I don't want to have the stress looming over my head of, hey, what if things don't go as planned? What I need to hit these numbers. I've worked with property owners who are in that position. I've seen how stressed out they are when they need everything to go perfectly just for them to make the return that they want. And I want to go, hey, if this property performs the worst possible performance, then it's still a great investment. I'm still happy with it. I'm still thrilled with it. And hey, if it produces good results, incredible. That would be amazing for me. And if it produces outstanding results, then holy smokes, I would be over the moon. That is a really powerful place to be in as an investor. And then you look at, and the total ROI goes up to 353% in that scenario. So again, that can be really strong. But for right now, let's keep things conservative and jump back over to year 2 and quickly take a look at year 2, because obviously one thing I want to point out is the appreciation that we got in year 1 because of the renovation. We don't get that in year 2, right? We don't get that appreciation from the property in year 2. So we want to look at how does it shape up? How does it look as an investment if we do a cash out refinance and now, we've got that appreciation, but it's done, right? Is it worth carrying this property for multiple years? That's a really good question. So if we look at year 2 here, now we've got some differences here you'll see. So we've got the same purchase price, same details there. The one difference up here is that the acquisition cost of the debt service, that's no longer there because we're doing a cash out refinance in year 2. I'm going to walk through that down below here. And year 2, we can do the cash out refinance, pay back the principal on the loan, and we no longer have that about $3,000 in annual expense from the debt servicing, the interest payments. Okay. Now the rest of this is all kept super conservative as well. We've got our all of our expenses the same, all expenses the same here. Everything is staying pretty much the exact same here. And so what we're looking at now is a total cash on cash return in our worst case scenario of 5%. So again, that's a pretty good cash on cash return. I mean, by no means is it phenomenal, right? That's not what we're aiming for. But as a worst case scenario, you invest your money into the market, you're getting what? Maybe a 5 to 8% return if you look at it over the long term. So if you can get that, just because again, having wiped out that $3,000 of debt servicing that was eating up our cash flow, now we free that up so that now we're earning a 5% cash on cash return, even in the worst case scenario. Now again, if you bump this up to closer to 60% to the income that we're more realistically projecting, then you're up closer to 43%, and you're again into kind of bananas territory. It's pretty insane the ROI that you're looking at in the more realistic scenario. But let's keep this more conservative at 44% and look at how the rest of the numbers shape up. So we've got another year of principal pay down at $16,000, paying down the principal on the mortgage. So that's an equity ROI of 48%. And then we got appreciation this year just at 2%. Again, we're not forcing appreciation because we're not doing any strategic renovations. So it's just a conservative estimate. Again, the market might go up or might go down, but if we're planning on holding this property long term, then it's pretty safe to assume that you're going to get about 2% appreciation each year. That's been true for all the past, so there's no reason for it not to be true going into the future. And again, that's not to say that it's not going to have its ups and downs, that you're just going to get a steady 2% every single year. But our plan with this property is to hold on to it long term, and obviously we can't afford to hold on to it long term because of the cash flow it's producing. And so we don't have to bank on that appreciation. We're not going to be forced into a sale, so we can just make sure that we hold on to the property for long enough that if we experience a down cycle, we'll just hold right through it. So that's what we're looking at in terms of our appreciation at 2% per year, $14,000. That's an appreciation ROI of 38%. That's what I always like to remind people is the really cool thing about appreciation is even if you're just getting appreciation at 2%, that doesn't mean it's only 2% ROI. Because the really cool thing about real estate is the amount of leverage you get. If you can buy a property for 5% down, 20% down, 30% down even, you're still getting a 30% down payment on a much more valuable asset, right? You get a 70% loan to value. So you are able to control an asset that's worth much more than what you actually have put into it. And you get that to appreciate at 2%. That's what appreciates at 2%, not your down payment, the whole property. So really strong numbers there. Now, again, our actual money invested in this deal is still only $37,000. We actually have equity of about $239,000, $240,000 at this point, and that's considering the down payment, not the rest of the closing costs, because those obviously are just a fixed expense for your closing costs, your lawyer fees, all that sort of stuff. Just the down payment, the mortgage payment, mortgage pay down for 2 years at $16,000. And the appreciation from the new value of the property at $700,000. And if we do a refinance, when we refinance, we're going to need to leave at least 20% in the deal. So we can't refinance it at 5.19%. Again, unfortunately, I wish we could. We could pull a lot more money out. But we can pull out money and do a cash out refinance, and we leave in 80% we leave in 20% of the value of the property. So we're leaving it at 80%, and then we're cashing out 20%. So I guess depending on how you look at these numbers should maybe be reversed. Equity left in at 20% or cash out at 80%. But basically what this means is that we need to leave $140,000 worth of equity in the property. But bear in mind, we already have $239,000 worth of equity in the property. So again, it's kind of confusing if you look at it, if you're not experienced with it, because we only have $37,000. That's the only money that we put into the deal. But we obviously have substantially more equity in the deal than that from the mortgage paydown and from the and from the renovation. So we need to leave $140,000 worth of equity in the deal, but that doesn't mean we need to actually put $140,000 of our own dollars into the deal. That means that basically what we can do then is we're cashing out to get us down to just 20% equity in the deal and 80% loan. That means we can actually pull out $80,000, a couple hundred dollars shy of $80,000, just enough to repay the entire principal on that loan. So that means that now we pull out $80,000. The bank writes us a check for $80,000. We use that to pay off our loan. And then we actually still have $140,000 worth of equity left in this property. Even though of our own money, we still only have $37,000. Again, if you're interested in learning more about how this all breaks down, if you're confused by it at all, don't worry. There is a link down below for you to schedule a call with me where I can talk through more of this and help you to accomplish these goals if you want to do something like this for yourself as well. And also, there's some really awesome ways to do this with money partners so that you're actually doing it with someone else's money, someone else's mortgage, so you can get someone who can get a really strong mortgage capability, get a really great interest rate, and they put the money in, but you still get to have 50% ownership in the deal. We'll talk about that as well. Again, the link's down in the description below if you want to schedule a call to talk more about that with me. But if we look at the rest of the picture here, year two, the big question was, how does it look after the big, huge ROI from the renovation? Because obviously we're not going to do that every year. We can't just keep renovating the property and expect it to keep going up in value if we keep renovating and over renovating the property. You need to do just the strategic renovations that are going to really build equity and value in the property. So how does it look? Our combined ROI is sitting at 91.25% in year two, and it'll be pretty much the exact same each year thereafter. And again, this is assuming our worst case scenario. If we bump this up and we're looking at, again, the 60% occupancy rate and about $70,000, just shy of $70,000 in gross income, then suddenly our cash on cash, like we talked about, goes up to about 43%, and our combined ROI is closer to 130%. So again, these numbers are absolutely insane when you really think about it. The amount of wealth that you can create and that you can build very, very quickly by using the right strategy and knowing how to do it. So again, if you want to learn more about this, if you want to learn more about how you can find a property and do something exactly like this for yourself, and you can very quickly replace your income and really build some actual wealth for yourself. That's, big focus of mine over the next couple of years here is working with people to help them to not only replace their income, not only add to their active income, but also add to their passive income and help them to build wealth. Then again, just click the link down below. You can schedule a 15-minute call with me. I'd love to walk through this with you in more detail and help you get started towards your goals and see how we can help you to achieve them. Again, I'm going to be working with a really small group of people over the next 6 months here, really just helping them to dial this in and help them to buy profitable Airbnb properties so that they can see some really great wealth building just like this and some fantastic cash flow as well. So again, if that's something you're interested in, just click the link in the description down below, schedule a quick call with me, and I would love to chat with you. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.